Hey, it's Judy from Holly Homestead in the Making, and today I am making cinnamon pear jam. And this is the very first jam I've ever made, so come along with me and we'll learn together. So I was gifted a full Kroger bag, or pretty much full Kroger bag of pears at church. That was also a gift to the person that gifted it to me. So I have already off camera, I went ahead and peeled, poured, and chopped up our pears. And I'm actually doubling this recipe because that's how much I have ready to can. Anyways, here is 8 or just slightly over 8 cups of pears that are been sliced, cut, and poured and all the things. And then we have 2/3 cup of pure lemon juice. And I today am using this Santa Cruz organic pure lemon juice. And it's not made from concentrate. So that is what we are using today for our lemon juice portion of it. I'm actually going to turn these pears on and let them cook down a bit before I add the sugar. Because to be honest with you, I really think I would like the texture better if they were cooked down just a tad bit more. I don't really want big chunks in it like this. So we're going to let that cook down. The recipe never states to cook these down before you put the sugar in. I'm just doing that for personal preference. I feel like I would like it better. So I'm actually going to put a lid on it so we can start to soften that fruit. Alright guys, we are back, and this has probably been on the stove, I don't know, like 10-15 minutes. I just kind of let the fruit cook down a bit. It's still pretty solid, but this is going to cook down more during the actual canning process. So I am going to go ahead and throw in the sugar. So we need 15 cups of sugar. It's a lot of sugar. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I have been stirring this constantly, or not constantly, but consistently, making sure it don't burn or start to scorch or anything like that. But all that's in here right now is our 2/3 cup of lemon juice and our a little over 8 cups of pears. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Definitely gonna need something bigger than what I have. I don't know if you guys can tell or if you noticed. Initially, I was in a big red saucepan, which proved to not be big enough. So I put it in my largest my largest pot, that goes to my set, which proved not to be big enough. So just take it from me if you're doubling for sure. But honestly, just start in a stock pot. That way you don't have to wash 2 extra dishes than what you initially would have had to do. So this seems a little overkill, but this is where we're at. This is what we got to do. As you can see, I've got a lot of room in there. So, final 3 cups. Alright, so in this pot we have 8 cups of pears. We have 15 cups of sugar and 2/3 cup of lemon juice. So I always heard it took a lot of sugar to make jellies and stuff, but my word, this is Pomona's pectin, please, because this is an insane amount of sugar. I mean, honestly, yeah, that stuff may be expensive, but that much sugar is expensive. So, and let's just think of our health. Good gravy, that's a lot. But anyhow, once this comes to a boil where I can't stir the boil away, we will add our gelatin, our pectin. Yeah, I nearly forgot the most important thing that makes this different from just pear jelly. We forgot the cinnamon. I confirmed with my recipe book that it is 1 teaspoon per batch. We're doing 2 batches, so that would mean 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. Me and my family, we really like or love cinnamon. So I'm going to tell you the truth of it. 2 teaspoons seems a little lacking, but I've never made this recipe. Let's just make it the way it says. And I can always decide next time I would add more cinnamon. And if I do, I will notate my book. I've already washed with soaping water. I washed our jars, lids, and rings. So as soon as we're ready to start ladling this up, these are good and ready. And I have our water over here that is getting hot, because you can't put, if I have hot product in my jars, I cannot put hot jars in cold water. So I'm heating up the water as we go, and I'll bring that up to a boil. I told you guys that canning for me was very stressful. But I gotta say, I've actually quite enjoyed this process so far. But jellies and jams are usually what they tell you to start with, because it's just a little simpler. If it gives you any indication of how much sugar is in this jelly, it was probably about a full gallon jar of sugar. It's a lot. All right, as I brought this to a boil, I did ensure that I can, like, not continuously, but very frequently I was going over there and stirring this up, because once you've added the sugar, you are at a more elevated risk of scorching it. And once that sugar is scorched, it is just toss it, because it ain't no good. There's really not no saving that. So just be sure to kind of stir it, scrape the bottom, you know, just regular cooking stuff. I can't imagine that it would not taste good, because it's literally just sugar on sugar on sugar with a little cinnamon and then a tad bit of pears. Alright guys, we are getting here. I think we are at the point where it's boiling and I can't stir it away. Yeah, we are here. We are today using MCP Premium Fruit Pectin for homemade jams and jellies. And I'm going to put 2 in this container. Set this down so I can put my jelly in here, or my pectin in here. One of these were open, so had a little slit in it, which is a little concerning, but what I have, so here we are, putting 1 whole pack of that in there. Now I'm going to pour the contents that fell. And it seems like the crack is, yeah, right there, if you can see. I'm going to actually tear it from this side. Alright. Alright, I'm pretty sure, gonna double check probably. Let's see. We're gonna stir, I think, for 1 minute. I'm gonna go ahead and set a 1 minute timer. And you stir it constantly for this 1 minute. Okay. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to confirm that that was 1 minute. I'm almost 100% sure that it was just 1 minute. Let's see. Stirring constantly for 1 minute. Remove from heat and skim off the foam. You skim off the foam. You don't actually have to do this step. It just kind of helps your presentation. One thing I am slightly concerned about was I was supposed to get 3-ounce packages and I'm supposed to have 2. These are only 2 ounce. But considering I cooked my fruit down a little bit, that created more pectin. I think it's going to be just fine. I'm not sure. You know, we're just going to let the film be there, because I'm not sure how you do that and don't take the actual fruit. And I am worried that this is going to begin setting up. So I'm just going to go for it. We're going to fill up 3 larger jars. Always forget this. My canning utensils. How do I always forget this? I don't know, but I do. We're not worried about the film. We're just going to let it be. It would just be a prettier jelly if I didn't, but kind of struggling. So let's see. I need a 1/4 head space. That is that line right there. That's actually, I might have to take just a little bit off, but it's pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and debubble these because that will show me. One thing I was going to say was, yeah, I think that puts us about dead on. I probably cooked the pears down just a, that was hot. That's the bad thing about what we are working with. Really hot sugars and whatnot. So be prepared to, you know, for that not to feel that great. Like I said, I probably cooked down the pears just a little too much. It's going to be more like pear jelly than pear preserve. But I am A-okay with that. I don't mind. I think I'd prefer the jelly, honestly, over the preserve. That could have just the tiniest amount more. I feel like it's pretty impossible to do this without being super messy. Alright, I like the way that looks. Very sticky. So, I don't know if I'm being especially messy or if it's just a messy process. We're going to be diligent in wiping these jars down because I'm going to tell y'all I made a mess. It might sound silly to a bunch of y'all, but it really kills my shoulder to pour, and it's hard for me to tell what I'm doing out of this big container. So I'm actually going to pour what I have into a bowl that's a little easier for me. What is left, which is going to be a very tiny amount. It's not going to be worth canning. So I'm actually just going to put it in a jar and put it in my fridge, and it will be our current jelly. Will also give me something to test this with without actually opening. Tell me that ain't about the perfect little sink. I'm still gonna clean the lid. This don't have vinegar on it, so my jar's not sticky. There we go. Old canning lid. Another very important part of this is to take a little vinegar and wipe down the rims of our lids. That just helps you get a really nice seal. It gets all that stickiness off of it. So actually going to wipe down the jar. I got really messy with this. I'm not going to worry about going too in depth and cleaning it because typically when I get done with my jars, after they come out of the can, I say typically. When I came the other day, I actually took the jars and sprayed them down with a little bit of vinegar water, like that 3 parts vinegar that Mimi made together. I actually took that, wiped it down, cleaned them all that way that it would take any water, what is it called? Hard water lines off of it. Plus it would just clean the jar so they would look nice and pretty. So here I am, I'm just cleaning the lids. I'm going ahead and wiping down the rim of it with the vinegar. I feel like the more and more practice you have with this, the quicker and quicker you become. We're going to start loading our jars into our water bath canner. I'm gonna have to add a whole lot of water, it looks like. All right, we've got all of our jars in our canner. We do have to ensure that they are completely submerged in the water. That's how water bath canning works. It creates pressure. All right, so they're all submerged. We're going to cover it with a lid. This is not the lid that goes to the scanner, but we're making it work. This is actually my stock pot lid, but we got to bring this to a boil, and then it says we'll process for 10 minutes. I do have to look to see if we're using a bigger jar, if that might change the processing time. But I will check on that, and I will let you guys know once this is boiling what the plan is. Hey y'all, I completely spaced on filming the actual canning process. So I waited till we were at a rolling boil, which took 9 million years, which is why I spaced. And then I had already had the jars in there. And then once they started coming to a rolling boil, I set a 10-minute timer and I let them sit in there for 10 minutes. Once the 10 minutes was up, I took the lid off and I let them set for 5 minutes. And then I took them all out and here we are. I'll try to remember to do the seal test to make sure we didn't have any failures. Alrighty guys, let's wrap this up. So I filmed this back in September of last year. Here we are in April. So it's been quite a while for me to get around to doing the editing for this video and everything, but it actually works out better because I've learned lots of things since September to April, you know, just different canning projects I've done and whatnot. That some I filmed, some I haven't. And what I've learned is that I really made things hard on myself in this footage. I really should have used my water bath canner. That is my large stock pot. The one that I actually brought the material up, or like the jelly, I brought it up to a boiling in. That would have been my best bet for, you know, doing my water bath canning. And I'm going to tell you why. So it would have gotten hotter quicker because the way that that's made, and also the lid actually fit on it. So I was losing a lot of that steam and momentum because the lid, there was like cracks around it where it didn't fully fit that pressure canner that I was doing it in. So I had to just keep it on the heat for a very long time. And in doing that, brings me to my next point. So I did cook down the pears, as you saw at the very beginning of this footage. And I'm okay with that. But if you're wanting pear preserves, probably don't do that. Because by the time I actually got it canned, the pears were eviscerated. It was a jelly, it was not a jam, and it was definitely not a preserve. Which for me was okay, but if you're wanting to preserve, you would have been very disappointed. I may have had, actually, let me get a jar and I'll show you what it looks like. Earlier, you saw me making the jelly. I did it in 2 different size jars. I did it in a jelly jar and I did it in a pint-sized jar. And I'm not sure if that comes through, but if you can see, the pears are only up here. And this is one of the first ones I did because I did the bigger ones, I think, kind of off the bat. But as you can see, all of this is just jelly. But you go to my little jars I did at the end. Look, it's only to right about there. And it's not a whole lot. So for us, we're okay with that. The main way that we're utilizing this, the way that I have utilized this, is I am actually making homemade Pop-Tarts with that. For my kiddos, because they absolutely love Pop-Tarts, but I don't really like buying them because they got a lot of sneaky ingredients in them. And if I make it at home, I know what goes in it. So comment down below and I would be glad to put that together for you guys. And I could either do it with my cinnamon pear jelly, because it is not a jam. But so if you really want to preserve, I would not cook down the pears to begin with. If I did this again, I more than likely would do the exact same thing because I'm very happy with the results. I'm going to be using it for Pop-Tarts anyways. We're not real big on jellies and jams anyhow. I mean, we never really keep it in our refrigerator. I've had it in my refrigerator and it's just not something that we actually even think about to get out to use, which is fine. Another thing that I wanted to address is I never actually filmed me checking the seals, but I have had no seal failures pretty much my whole time canning. I did have some siphoning, but I've never had a failed seal, and these were main stain jars from Walmart. I've bought a lot of the main stain lids. They do great, and it turned out delicious. I don't think I would up the cinnamon. I was pretty happy with how it turned out. Like I told you, I would make this again. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. And I hope you guys have a very great and happy Easter and wonderful time with your family. And as always, thank you guys.